Hey y'all, woo child. You almost lost me. You know how you know you want to do something, but I don't know. It's like I don't know if it's because I'm getting up so early in the mornings that I just hit the wall by about 7 or 8 or what. But I tell you, you can probably still see that I'm a little sleepy in my eyes. I just thought I'd lay down for a moment, and I think I went all the way in, child. And plus, it was one of those drizzly, rainy, for us, cold, overcast days. And it just felt like one of those days. So I want to thank you, Jacana Thomas. Thank you so much. Hi, Electra. It's good to see you. Um, and how are you, Raslyn Reeds? Is that Roslyn? Roslyn Reeds. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I want to thank you all for coming on. And Jacana, I want to thank you so much for your active participation in my live yesterday, where we discussed briefly the founder of Black History, what was originally in 1926 Black History Week by Carter G. Woodson, who wrote a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. He was an activist, journalist, a man that wore many hats. I think, because of his extensive study in African Americans, or the African Americans experience in America, may have actually contributed to African American studies being included in many colleges. So we talked about him, and it was in 1976 that it became Black History Month. And as we can see today, it's almost as if some of these governors and in these states that are banning books by Black, brown, and Asian writers, writers of LGBTQIA literature, if they had their way, that they might even do without Black History Month. I really have to wonder how teachers are going to teach Black History Month in this month of February, where we're supposed to celebrate and uplift the contributions and just um, the amazing contributions that my people have made to this country. I wonder how they're going to handle teaching that if they can't make white children uncomfortable, and they can't mention slavery, which I just maintain, whether anybody agrees or not, that slavery is American history, and that the history of any country isn't always glowing and beautiful and lovely. The people within the Confederacy were not kind, genteel Southern gents. They were cruel, brutal motherfuckers. And I'm glad they lost, even though we have signs of people wanting to honor them as heroes and wanting to breathe life, and who have continued to fight the Civil War. I just don't think that it's ever going to really work out for them. I really don't. That's what I feel in my heart. So before I get into telling you about the legacy of Henrietta Lacks, I want to just give you a little bit of news. Ooh, child. I might have put a little bit of something on tonight, honey, because I'm looking pretty wretched right now. A friend of mine forwarded me a story from an application called Smart News. Oh, shoot. I don't want to see. I'm going to have to go back into her text message and open up the story that it just some Negroes just vex me, and this one really vexes me. This is the ex-POS guy who had within his administration one show pony named Ben Carson, whom he would trot out on any black holiday, any black event. I remember when he came to Atlanta, I think it might have been for Dr. King's birthday or for some black thing, and the children let him know without any doubt that his ass was not welcome. So needless to say, he didn't stay long. I don't even think his ass was there 5 minutes. And I'm glad they did, because we are over the coons. We're over the coons, the ones that want to carry water for supremacists, the ones who actually think that anybody, that ex-POS ex guy really gives a shit about them. He refers to them as his blacks, and I guess I would say so, because they certainly aren't our blacks. Well, this is Ben Carson, who said that Joe Biden's commitment to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court is abominable. You know, I wouldn't let that motherfucker cut my toenails, let alone do any kind of surgery on me. That is some of the dumbest shit I ever heard. Why do you think he was appointed to be over HUD, a department of which he knew nothing of? When Katie Porter grilled his ass, when he took his half-asleep ass down to the House of Representatives for a hearing, Katie Porter grilled him. She put him on the spot and made him look just as stupid and inept and unqualified as he was to head the Housing of Urban Development. And he soon found out that just because he was appointed to that position, he and his wife couldn't go out and buy very expensive pieces of furniture to decorate his office. See, Ben, you can't do what they do. He calls this thing, now I'm going to tell you something. This whole idea about identity politics is new to me. I've heard it used by young people, and I've asked them to explain it to me. Because to me, not everything is political. If I identify as a woman, a black woman, I don't see where that is identity politics. But if that same thing is true, how does he think he got his gig? He says, "This is America." Carson, who served under the currently yet embattled, you know who he is, said in an interview Thursday, January 27, "Many people fought and gave their lives to bring equality, and now we're reverting back to identity politics." He later added, "As we continue to do that, we bring more division into our country. You are the stupidest motherfucker on the planet." It wasn't us that brought division into the country. How dare you? Why does anybody talk to this bastard? Yeah, many people fought, and everything that we have accomplished in this country has been done by blood. We have shed blood. We have shed blood, from assassinations to dogs being turned on us, to being beaten half to death, to having fire hoses turned on it. We have fought, and many have died, and none of them today, none of them, I don't think would call this identity politics. You've been sniffing propofol or something. Okay, I'm going to calm down. I'm going to calm down. And so he says, it begs the question then, what is identity politics that got Dr. Carson appointed to be head of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins. And if the same people who he said fought and gave their lives to bring equality did not also do so for the high qualified Black women on the scholar's short list. But he didn't stop there. He said Biden could be setting a detrimental precedent by focusing on Black women. Let me tell you something. I said it yesterday. Black women have never, until recently, been the lady of the house. We allowed ourselves to be raped by the master to keep him off our husbands. We have always been the backbone of the family. We have had to be strong. And no matter what anybody wants to say and try to romanticize the relationship between Thomas Jefferson and Sarah, I'm getting a brain thing. Somebody give me a name. The slave that he just victimized, that I'm sure that his first encounter was not some loving, kind, romantic thing. His wife probably wasn't giving it up, so he went out to get it where he could. And in the movies and in the films, they wanted to romanticize this relationship as if she was the first lady or something. No, this woman did what she had to do to keep her children safe because she was squeezing out some babies for him. And in doing so, he went about to create a formula about how much Black blood you have to be considered Black. Well, we all know all you need is one drop. It's not no like scientific formula to that. Candace Owens will soon learn, if she hasn't already, that her son will not be looked at. You can call him biracial, you can call him what you want. Gonna be many more calling him a Black boy. Let's see here. Chicana says, they hate us because we are the future. Don't believe me as the people at the Genome Project? Well, yeah. I was emotional yesterday because of these bomb threats that were called into our historic Black colleges and universities. And I prayed all night about that, because that, had any of those things actually succeeded, that's about killing our future thinkers, another future president or presidents, future judges, lawyers, doctors, educators, engineers. Because there are some white folks that think, oh, we're getting a little bit too much now. There's a scripture in the Bible that says the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. I'll Google it on my phone to tell you and read the entire scripture. But it seems to me that white people have had a good run. They've dominated the world. And they've done so by the most vicious and heinous means possible. Now, I'm not saying this about all white people, because I have some very, very close friends. And I don't mean that to be condescending. I mean some friends that have gone to the wall for me. But I have had these conversations with them. I'm very, very honest and outspoken, because you can't speak to me as a white person about being Black in America. You can't. And to me, it really is a shame that in a new century in 2022, today is the second month, the second day of we got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 twos, a 5-2 day. Yay! Angel numbers. You can't speak to this. You can't speak to my experience because it is decidedly very, very different than yours. So I want Ben Carson to sit his tired ass all the way down and don't say nothing. Black women are strong. Far too many Black women have been left to raise their sons and their daughters themselves. They've had to be mother and father to their children, and many have successfully gotten all their children through college. That is not a statistic that is an exception to the rule. That is the rule. So if we're outspoken, if we sometimes get combative, you want to label us as being angry. Well, God damn it, we got a reason to be angry. Especially when our men who have gotten their lessons and learned how to be men from white men turn on us as well. They complain about us as well. I remember a friend of mine, her cousin or somebody got with this white woman. Now, let me say this. She wasn't no superstar, okay? I'm just being kind. And when he introduced her to me, he said, "This is Sabrina, my white girlfriend." I just looked at him. You stupid motherfucker. I know that. I am not blind. Black men think they have the ultimate prize when they get a white woman. Some have said they get with white women by putting down Black women. And I want to remind them, nigga, you came out of the thighs, out of the inner parts of a Black woman. Your Black ass wouldn't be here had it not been for a Black woman. So if you want to tell me you are with a white woman, a woman from another race, because you love her, I can get with that. But for you to somehow make it my fault as a Black woman that you're doing it, no, that doesn't wash with me. And some of you, some have said because, they do what they want them to do. Well, that's fine, because I'm not going to be with anybody that when they do wrong, I'm supposed to shut up and not say anything. I'm not that kind of chick. There was a time when I was so concerned about other people's feelings that I didn't stand up for myself. But baby, one day the sleeping giant woke up. And if I don't like something, I'm going to let you know I don't. And I'm not always hand on my hip, shaking it's not like that. I'm going to let you know. If it displeases me, if you're hurting me, I am going to let you know. And by way of an announcement, I'm going to have to get a cataract removed out of this eye. They're baby cataracts, according to my doctor. But this one is really getting on my nerves. And he says I won't have to wear glasses. I'll only have to wear readers. And I am so looking forward to you. Hey, Keisha. Let's see who else is coming. Hey, Rhonda. Thank you all so much for coming. So, yeah, If I am an angry now I don't always like that image imposed on us when it feels like it's for nothing. One of the housewives shows got high ratings because of that. I used to watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And then I just kind of got bored with it because I felt like, hey, these chicks got great gigs. They're getting paid. They get a chance to wear pretty clothes and go out and eat at fine places and whatnot. They get stylists. They get all the juice and stuff. And what y'all fighting for? That to me does not make sense. But when I think about the history of Black women in this country, we have a damn good reason to be angry. But the real deal is like even all through slavery, even all through what we have endured and continue to endure. When we hear about trials like Ahmaud Arbery's trial, a young man who was just jogging through a neighborhood and 3 white men hunted him down and killed him, shouting, "Die, nigga." You see, lynching and killing is still happening in these backwoods in the South. It's as barbaric as it was for the Romans to go to the arena and watch people their enemies being ripped apart and torn apart by animals, lions, wild beasts. Barbaric. And they would do this shit after church, having a Sunday best, take a lunch to go down to see this. That is sick. That is a brutality and a sickness that I truly don't understand, and I don't think I ever want to understand it. Also, in news, Whoopi Goldberg has been suspended from The View for 2 weeks because she said that the Holocaust wasn't about race. So the CEO of, is it ABC that they're on, I think, who is Jewish, and some of the leaders in the Jewish community came out and voiced their opinion. They were very unhappy with her, even though she apologized twice and has been very active in Jewish causes. She's been suspended for 2 weeks so she can think about it. I once had a conversation. I had a favorite coffee shop I would visit, and there was a Jewish man that would come down. I don't know if he was a criminal or what. There was something about him that just was kind of shady. But he would come down to the coffee shop, and one day he joined a conversation I was having with, well, there were several of us having this conversation. And the subject of slavery came up, and he told me that Black people should get over slavery. And before what came out, I said, we'll get over slavery when the Jewish community gets over the Holocaust. The thing about that I can't bear to look at I watched the film. I wanted to see the film Judgment at Nuremberg when I was about 7. And my father went with me to see the film. And I was horrified by what I saw. I couldn't sit through Schindler's List after the first scene. when this little boy is running for his life and takes shelter in a toilet, a nasty toilet. I couldn't watch it. To think that any group of people could do that to another group of people, just the cruelty of it, to think that they felt justified in torturing these, starving these people, killing them, cold-blooded murder, to think that they felt justified in doing that. And in the film, all the people that were on trial said they were just doing their job. They were just taking orders. My God. The wonderful thing about that has come out of the Holocaust is they had Simon Wieselberg, who made it a point to hunt Nazis down as long as he was living, because many fled to South America. They all had an escape route. They had a way out, and they ended up in South America. And until his death, he hunted down as many as he could and brought them to justice. And they're also able to put a number on how many of their relatives, their great grandfathers and mothers and perhaps cousins, they're able to put a number on how many perished. Not the same with slavery. We don't know how many died on the passage coming across the Atlantic. We don't know. We can't put a number on it. And I'm not comparing anybody's pain to anybody's pain. I really am not. Because to me, all of it speaks to the brutality and the hateful thinking of some people. And we're seeing it awake. That beast has awakened in this country. It has awakened. And we are going to have to stand, and we are going to have to fight, keep on fighting, if we are going to keep a semblance of democracy, if we're going to not keep a semblance of it, or if we're going to breathe life into it so that it continues to live. When I was a little girl, I didn't recognize that I was different. I was just a kid until one day in first grade, I think I told you this story. A little white boy came up to me, and I was swinging and I was singing. I was in my heaven. I was swinging as high as I could go on the swing. And he stopped the swing and said, "Get off that swing, you chocolate bar." I think I might have told you about how that traumatized me, because he didn't act like he didn't say it like he dug chocolate. And I remember not getting off right away. And then he insisted. So I punched him as hard as I could. And I ran. And I went to my first grade teacher. And I said I wasn't feeling well. And she allowed me to go in and put my head down on my desk. And when my first grade teacher's name was Roberta Smith. I really liked her. And there was another first grade teacher there named Mrs. Bailey. I think Mrs. Bailey walked with a limp. And I think I might have mentioned she sounded like she came out the womb drinking bourbon and smoking cigarettes. She had a real gravelly, rough, gruff voice. There was nothing tender about it. And she made some reference to me as a brown child. So that day when I left, when I went home and I we had to change out of our school clothes and get in our play clothes and wash up. And I remember looking in the mirror and I just then realized that my hair wasn't golden. It didn't blow in the wind. And that my skin was darker than even the light-skinned Black kids. And I began to want what I saw. So I tried to scrub the color off. And when my mother came, when she heard the water running, I'm sure she wanted to come and scold me at first for playing in the water, but I know she observed what the distress that I was having, and she came in and sat down and asked me what was going on. And I just broke down and cried and told her honestly how I was feeling. And after she dressed the wound, she gave me my favorite popsicle, which today is still my favorite popsicle, the red cherry ones, and took me for a walk in her flower garden. My folks they were genuine green thumb people, farmers. They could grow anything. She grew fruit trees in the desert, my mom. And she walked me through her flower garden. They were always getting rewards for the beauty of our lawn and flowers and our vegetable gardens. And she began to talk to me about how, and just in spite of all the different beautiful colors, that flowers that were in the same family all looked different. The flowers didn't all look alike. And it was on that day she spoke to me about the beauty of my Blackness and the pride I should take in being a Black little girl. I'll never forget it. So let us move on. I don't know. Oh, and there's one other, like, this is kind of a poppy thing, a pop trending thing. Hey, Doreen, you probably have heard about Cardi B's win in a trial that had been spoken about, I guess, for a few years, and against a YouTuber named Tasha K. And it's a substantial amount of money. Cardi won she was the victor in the lawsuit, and she's been awarded, now I think it's something like $4.8 million. Now, Tasha K, when I first started watching YouTube, was probably the only YouTuber that I knew of that was reporting on celebrity gossip, celebrity stuff. And then another lady came along, and they gradually, that community of YouTubers who were gossip people, I would say gossip people, or reporters on celebrity news. Apparently, she had put up some pretty toxic videos or said some toxic things about Cardi B, and it led to Cardi B suing her. So she has prevailed in the lawsuit. And there are a lot of YouTubers, some that are doing the same thing that she's doing, that seem to be very happy about Tasha K's downfall, I guess you could call it, because it ain't good news, right? I mean, $4.8 million is quite a lot of money. And some of them are just rejoicing. One YouTuber called for people to kick her while she's down, and any of you that she said anything about, file a lawsuit against her and whatnot. And I just want to warn anyone who is on that train and saying those things, that you be careful, because this particular case, I think, has changed the whole YouTube vlogger celebrity chat thing. It has changed the whole game. And it would only take one misstep that you make, and you could find yourself in the same position. So don't be so quick to dance and rejoice over her downfall. Because the one thing that is happening is that Tasha K's name is now, she's gone international, baby. Anytime Cardi B speaks, anytime something is posted on the internets and the interwebs, there will be a link to this case between her and Tasha K. So that's all I have in terms of just like trending news. Now on to Henrietta Lacks. The legacy of Henrietta Lacks. Okay. Henrietta Lacks was a poor Black tobacco farmer. And in 1951, she visited Johns Hopkins Hospital complaining about vaginal bleeding. She was diagnosed with a particularly aggressive form of cervical cancer. And, unfortunately died at the very young age of 31 years old. So while she was in the hospital, there were cell samples taken from her body. And what they found, there were I think it might have been some of the cell, because if she had cancer, they got some cell samples and took them to the lab. And what they noticed is that her cells replicated anywhere from 20 to 24 hours, where most cell samples would die. Well, these cells were nurtured. The scientists found that they gave these cells a proper mixture of nutrients, that they would continue to grow. Now, out of all of this experimentation on her, I would say experimentation because the cells were taken without her knowledge and the knowledge of her family. And out of this research came what is called the HeLa. HE for Henrietta, LA for Lacks. HeLa, the HeLa cell. And these cells are called immortal. Because they continue to grow and to give. And her cells have been used in all kinds of research. It helped develop polio vaccine. I read somewhere where it actually helped come up with the HIV, some of the HIV-AIDS medications. Let's see what else, and also cloning and gene mapping and in vitro fertilization. These cells are used. Now, they have been used for decades, okay? Her cells have been used for decades after her death. And as I said, without the knowledge of her family members or her knowledge. And so these cells have been used extensively around the world. And they're for sale. Her cells sell from $400 to thousands of dollars, and the biggest what can I call them? The biggest thieves, we'll just call them thieves, are a company called Thermo Fisher Scientific. Now, they've been selling her cells for decades. And they estimate that they make $35 billion per year in revenue based on the sale of the HeLa cell. Her family did not know what was going on until a woman named, I think her name is Rebecca Skloot, wrote a book about her, which was eventually turned into a movie with Oprah starring as Henrietta Lacks. They didn't know anything about this. And now that they've gotten hip to it, they are suing this company, Thermo Fisher Scientific. And they are seeking the full amount of net profits the company has earned from selling the cells all these decades. Ben Crump is representing them. And we know Ben Crump is very serious. And even though this is the first case of its kind, he says that this had to do, again, with a racist, the racism that exists in this country. She was a poor Black woman. She probably, well, no, she didn't. If getting the cure she needed required money, money was not available for it. So she died of this aggressive cervical cancer. And because, well, now there's a federal law that says that you can't take anybody's nothing from them without their permission, sales, anything. But back in those days, the defense that Johns Hopkins is using is that no such law existed, that they didn't have to ask her. But wouldn't you think out of some goddamn decency, you might have spoken to her about what you were doing and what you wanted to do? Hers is the longest, it's one of the longest cell strands in the world, certainly in this country. And her they've been people that all this cancer research we have, all of these other kinds of research that we have, I'd be willing to bet you that her cells have been used, even perhaps even in these boosters and shots and things, these vaccines we're getting for the current death angel. I'd be willing to bet you that her cells have been used in that research. The other thing that the estate of Henrietta Lacks is requesting is that there will be no more sales of her cells without prior knowledge. And this takes me to medical racism. It exists. In the Tuskegee Experiment, which was a 40-year experiment, Black men were given syphilis. In 1932, for 40 years. And this was done by the Public Health Services in Alabama. And these men were allowed to go, I think some of them may have been prisoners, if memory recalls. These men were allowed to go out, get married, have children, infect their wives and their children, and many of them died. They passed from the disease or from other causes that were triggered by this disease. So when the vaccines first started coming out and there was hesitancy and downright anger and the Black community screaming no very loudly, we have a reason not to trust the medical field here. We have a reason not to trust, because I can't imagine that this was the Tuskegee Experiment or Henrietta Lacks was the only experiment. They were giving Depo-Provera to Black women that was causing them to become sterile when they would go to free clinics. And even today, I've had my friends talk about how they go to see a doctor, a white doctor, and they don't seem to take us seriously when we tell them what's going on with our bodies. Not true of all doctors, I'm not saying that, because I've had some excellent ones. But there's always this feeling that there's not a whole lot of interest in us when we are going and we're talking, just like with Henrietta. The interest wasn't so much in what was happening to us as much as it was how we could be used to further further an experiment or further some research. I've talked to you about the Hottentot Venus Sarah Bartman, who was thought to be the missing link between man and ape. And when she died, broke and poor and used up, nobody cared how she died. The brilliant scientific minds at the time took her body apart, put her vaginal parts in a jar to be observed because of the structure of the minor labia and the major labia of the Khoi tribe, the women who were part of the Khoi tribe in Cape Town, South Africa. They didn't care how she died. I had a doctor when I was first diagnosed with alleged diabetes. I say allegedly because I know our bodies fight hard to keep us healthy. And I haven't had any problems because I have gotten it by its throat. Once I had the diagnosis, I had to change some things, and so I did. But I had a doctor who would come into the examination room. I would say hello, he wouldn't speak. He would walk over to this laptop or this tablet that was in the examination room. He began to ask me questions with his back to me. And the first time I thought, well, maybe, he's having a bad day or something. But when it happened the second time, I wouldn't answer his questions. And so he turned around and asked me if I heard him. And I said, yes. Did you hear me speak when you came in? I said, you haven't responded to me, and you come in here and turn your back to me while you have a waiting room full of Black people who have entrusted you with their health. Is this how you treat your Black patients? Because if it is, I want no parts of it. I am more than just some shit you can stare in on a chart. I'm more than that. And if you don't know how to be decent, I don't trust you with my health. And when I left, I just walked out of the exam. I didn't give a shit, and I wasn't paying for it either. And as I was leaving, because my voice carried, One of his staff said to me, if I had been diagnosed with diabetes, I wouldn't come here to see him either, which said to me that he treats all of his patients like that, and some people accept it. I'm sick of us accepting treatment because we just so Christian, or we just so holy, or we're frightened, whatever. Speak the fuck up. Don't let somebody talk to you or treat you like, you just a number. Speak up. And if you get a little loud or it's a little strong, so what? This woman had her cells taken and experiment and researched and sold for decades. Her family didn't know anything. They remained poor, but no more. No more. And I pray to God they get all of it. All of it. However many billions that comes up to. All of it. Johns Hopkins has a little, they gave a little something. I think they might have a section of the hospital with her name on it, something like that's supposed to heal the family, make them feel better. Hell no. Break me off some of the money. In fact, give me all the money that you have earned on my mother's cells, my grandmother's cells. I hope they get all of it. And I pray to God that precedent is set so that no other research company in this country or in this world will be able to do anything like this ever again. She's made a tremendous contribution to our health. And to the health of others. And yet, she's not one of those known people. So my pride, I am proud of her. Because as we continue through this month, there will be many superwomen, superheroes that you may know nothing of, but who have made huge contributions in medicine, in engineering. I used to, when we were in school and we were studying about inventions, I caused quite a ruckus when we were studying about Eli Whitney and how he invented the cotton gin. Well, my question was, how could he invent the cotton gin when he never picked cotton? I don't think he did. I think it was a slave who came up with that. Someone who had been out in the fields doing that back-breaking work, who came up with an idea that would make, of course, it would make his production higher, but it would also ease some of the burden of the slaves who are out in these cotton fields picking cotton. I got sent down to the principal's office. I usually didn't. I just ended up going in talking to the guidance counselor, who was a lovely man, Mr. Cloakfield. He appreciated what he thought was wisdom beyond my years. He thought it was funny that I would ask such a question because it made sense. We find out that the recipe for Jack Daniels was invented by a slave. How many years have Jack Daniels liquors been sold? How many billions of dollars have whoever the brewer, the distillers made on it? And I say all this to say that it seems to me that a lot of what white people have taken as their own, they have stolen. Do you think the queen goes out in the yards of one of those many palaces and digs up some damn diamonds? No. The colonizers are all in Africa, sucking anything they can out of the ground, digging anything they can out of the ground. And the work is usually done by children, child labor, because they're small enough to go down in those dangerous underground tunnels and stuff. I confessed to you last night that I've had to do a great deal of work on my heart, because when I see how some of these people are acting in the streets, how they just feel like killing somebody will end all of their troubles, how the insurrection on January 6th last year was blamed on Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Some bullshit. Lies. That no matter how educated, articulate, respectful, loving, and kind we are still considered to be lesser than. I've worked in law firms where I know more as a paralegal than a first-year law student, and they want to talk to me like I'm crazy. I don't know. I've gotten many of them told, you will respect me. Your ass don't even know how to file a lawsuit. So get out of my face with this grand talk you doing. I worked at one law firm. I knew there was going to be hell in there. Somehow, though, when the Lord tells you to do something, or when you feel that you have to do this thing, I'll tell you another story about how I got a gig with Jermaine Jackson, and trust and believe I did not want to go. And the woman that they had their office manager was this chick was huge. That she had to be over 6 feet tall, big old chick, big old like Russian German chick or something. You know, she's about one of the only. She made me feel very tiny. But one day she called me in the office because I had asked when I started working there if they had meetings, if secretarial meetings, so that we could all not only get to know each other, but if our partners are working on cases together, that, you know, how we could assist each other. Well, she fought that idea until my my attorney, who was a partner, thought it was a great idea. So we began to have these meetings. Now, usually they, I don't know. I was hoping that they would be productive, but usually it was done with hostility. And she had a little crew that kissed her ass a whole lot, and she had a whole lot of ass. Honey, let me tell you something. I got ass for days. This chick made me look like Twiggy or somebody. And so she called me in the office because one of her minions told her that while we were in one of a meeting, I rolled my eyes at her and I said, well, first of all, you called me away from my desk for this nonsense. Who said that? I said, if I can't confront my accuser, I am no longer interested in having this conversation. And I got the biggest pushback from the sisters that worked there. Because it got to the point where it was really, really tense between she and I. And I was thinking I'd just rather leave than stay there for another day. I'd just rather leave. And they wanted me to let it go. Well, sometimes when you're doing the right thing, it's not easy to let go. It's not easy to let go. So while I may sound as if I am venting and complaining about what happens to us in this land, I want you to know that I am happy that I was born and that I live in these United States of America, that I don't know anywhere else I would go. And as beautiful as it is, I could adapt. I could adjust. However, there's not many places you can go as a Black person and be truly accepted. You're going to always run into some form of racism. And especially since Black Americans around the world have been portrayed in the media as pimps, hoes, rogues, drug addicts, drug dealers. We haven't always been shown in the around the world situation as being decent human beings. I even had someone say to me when I went home for my father's homegoing, I think he might have been he was Middle Eastern of some kind. He could have been Pakistani. He could have been, from the Middle Eastern region. And when I told him that, yes, I was born here and I'm home for my father's homegoing, he said, oh, I used to live in Atlanta, and I was surprised by all the Black professionals. And I asked him, why? Why are you surprised? What is it that makes you think we're not capable of that? Who told you that bullshit? So I know I was saying that we had a reason for us to be real hesitant about taking some vaccine with all of these things rolling out so quickly. We had a reason based on the history of what has happened to us in the medical research fields, in the medical field, period. Based on that, I understand the hesitancy of some Black people who have simply refused to take the jab. And another interesting thing about the magnificence of being Black. I read in a medical journal some years ago that when Black and white soldiers were being returned home from Vietnam, the ones that had perished in Vietnam and were had their autopsies taken, that they found that the pineal gland in the black soldiers was alive and functioning, while the pineal gland in the white soldiers was calcified. And I never understood why there was so much interest in the pineal gland, which is commonly called the third eye. Called the pineal gland because it resembles the shape of a pine cone, and there is activity, there's liquid and crystals around it. I never did understand why there was so much interest in opening up, and opening up your third eye. And now I know. I have seen video after video after video after video to help people open up their third eye or to decalcify your third eye or whatever. That has to do with the spirit. That has to do with the spirit, the creator, infinite wisdom, the true and living God. That's what that has to do with. The acceptance that we are all reflections of the creator. We are all, even the ones I can't stand, the ones maybe you can't stand. We are all reflections of the Most High God. I don't know what you call that, what you call the one you worship. I don't get involved with that. I don't put anybody down. I don't get involved with that, because I know that beliefs they're not just one-dimensional. There is brilliance and beauty in all of the true religions, all the spiritual thoughts, thinkers, the spiritual practices. There's beauty. And I just pray that we wake up to that. When we had the oracle reading yesterday, we were warned about extremes. So this week, be careful not to go to extremes, like even if it means kind of tamping down your emotions. Because I heard Dr. Bernice King, the youngest daughter of Dr. Martin and Coretta King, she said her mother told her, because she said she went through a period in her life where, after knowing how her father was assassinated, that she hated white people, and particularly white men. She went through a phase, and she had to work hard on herself to come up out of that. And some advice her mother gave her was never make a decision in your anger. Those are very wise words. So if you're feeling a little triggered, or you're just feeling a little edgy, because I know I have been. I was just feeling a little bit on edge. Last night it just kind of came. Last night I had to cry, because it still baffles me that there are hateful people like that walking free, including the ex-POS guy, walking free, admitting the things that he's done. And he's still out there able to do it. While the Justice Department, everybody try to figure out how, how we going to do it? How are we going to do it? I want to think. I really want to believe that Merrick Garland, the man who prosecuted Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, was the Oklahoma City bombing. I want to believe that he knows what he's doing. But oh my God, I feel like he's moving slow. And in the meantime, this man is able to go out at these hate rallies and put other people's lives in danger. Black women and black men. How about that? And they're the racists. They're the sick ones. There was a lady who used to be on YouTube who was telling black people to start buying guns and stuff. Not only was she arrested, she was prosecuted and told she couldn't go near no electronic device. And she was just warning us of things that she could see coming down the line and just to be ready. And he's still out here. They're all still out here. We find out, now I'm going into the political spiel. He put $1 million in Mark Meadows, where his charity is something. He put the money into something Mark Meadows got going on. They all gangsters. $1 million. That's enough money to keep him quiet and to defy a subpoena. I'm wondering why 48 days later, they're still trying to figure out if he should be called upon criminal contempt. It makes no sense. It makes no sense when our boys or our daughters, particularly our boys, can get stopped by a policeman at a traffic stop and we don't know if they're going to live to tell the story. When I think about what happened to Philandro Castile, when he told the officer, I have a license to carry, and he's putting his hands up, and the cop shot him in front of his partner and his daughter, his child. How the latest conviction of another policeman, the Kimberly, whatever her name is, who shot a young man when she was screaming, "Taser, taser." What she saw was a young black boy. And she immediately anticipated there was going to be trouble. Well, Dylan Roof walked into a black AME church in South Carolina and killed everybody in there except one person because he wanted her to be able to witness and tell that tell the police that he'd been there. They were nice. He said they were nice to him. They prayed with me. Then he killed them all. And he got treated to McDonald's. I don't have to guess what would have happened had that been a black man. There is injustice. Critical race theory, one of the main, they teach it in law schools, some law schools, not all. But one of the cornerstones of critical race theory is teaching about how racism is baked into the laws of this country. So you've legislated racism into the laws. And if you have an opportunity to watch The 13th by Ava DuVernay, she dissects the 13th Amendment and how that amendment is full, the one that allegedly set us free, is full of speed bumps. Great documentary, great piece. I think I'll read some of your comments now because I've been rattling and prattling on. And Connie, you've been real active, girl. Let's see here. They've stolen the land from us. We are the Native Americans, and that's why they hate us. Eventually, they're going to have to give this back to us. I feel for the First Nation people. I really do. Because that's exactly what happened. Broken treaties. All the land is taken and you're pushed into reserves. I lived near a reserve, and it's called Schurz, Nevada, where Paiute First Nation people live. And I was stunned to see how they were living, and it hasn't changed. They seem to have been all but forgotten in this whole death angel situation. And that bitch up in where the Mount Rushmore is, that Christy Nome, that chick is gonna burn in hell. She's Trump in drag. She wants to be the XPOS person in drag. Everything any of the men do, she does. And I have to ask a question. Do they honestly think by banning books by Black writers and LGBTQIA writers and brown writers and Asian, do they honestly think that that's going to somehow suppress the curiosity that children have? Do they honestly think by them not being able to get a book in that library that they won't make an effort to find out stuff on their own? Because anytime you tell a child what they can't do, what do they do? What do they do? This United States of America, this is a wake-up call. You're going to have to look at yourself, and you have to look real hard. You're going to have to live up to the words that you say you live by in your Constitution. Because we seem to forget that the founding fathers were also slave owners. They didn't think much of us either. So this is decision time. What are you going to do? Are you going to live up to these words that are so precious to you? Are you going to live up to the ideals that you espound? That all men are created equal. And when you say endowed with certain inalienable rights, those aren't the rights that man gives you. Those are the rights of the Holy Spirit. Those are the rights that God gives us. So you didn't give them, so you can't take them away, can you? When you go to bed tonight, maybe you can do some more research on Henrietta Lacks if you feel like it. Tell your children about her amazing contribution to the healing of diseases in this nation and around the world. I don't know if I'm going to come on tomorrow because I don't know if Johnny or Adrian or any of the other of our favorites are going to be posting anything. I've been thinking about I love to cook. I'm a great cook. And I've been thinking about doing a cooking video, although mine would have to be special because I'm still in this extended stay. And the stove has a different kind of way to heat. So it would be, perhaps I can label it, if somebody ever find themselves in this situation, I can tell them how to handle the stove. Took me a minute, but I got it down so that I'm able to create delicious meals here. But I don't know. I have to have the patience to do that. I have to have the patience, and I don't know that I'm not sure that exists right now. So I'm glad that y'all came. I want to thank you, Jaconda and Rhonda and Keisha. And who is this one with this very, I don't know how to pronounce that. And I don't know what Vom Red is. I don't know what that is. I really don't. And if you're a troll, we don't give a shit either, okay? Electra Storm says there's a thing called the internet and Amazon where you can get books now. Yes, you can. Yeah. we have to, that's what I think. I think the children are going to be ordering books. They want to know. They don't want to remain ignorant. They don't. They want to know, and they want to know the truth. And I really feel that these children, the millennials, this generation that's coming, they don't have time for what they consider to be nonsense. They're more concerned about real stuff, like climate change, and how the earth is changing, how we polluted waters and polluted the air and everything. They're concerned about what we are leaving behind, the garbage that we're leaving behind. So I certainly hope that the children take it upon themselves that if they want to know about something, that they can go to Amazon and get a book and learn of it themselves. So I want to again thank you all, Rhonda, Jaconda, and hi 1111, Sharon Sipe. I want to thank you all. If I miss any names, count it to my head, not to my heart, because I'm always excited to see you come on and support me. I should have another update about my project. As I mentioned last night, we kind of hit, I've kind of hit a little bit of a, we call it, there's a little pebble in my shoe, but I can take my shoe off and empty it and get it out. This is, I'm determined that this is going to be the best project that I've done, and that it'll open many doors for me. When and I'm also scheduled to be interviewed on a Roku channel. I'll get the name of it and maybe do a short video to tell you where it's going to be. If you have, I guess, I don't know if you have to have the Roku box to see it. I don't know anything about those things. But the interview is to take place at 6 p.m. on Sunday. I hope that you had many, many blessings on this 2/2/2/2/2 day, because it's supposed to be a magical day that, magical things can happen to us on this day. And you got to wonder how many more years, hundreds of years, will it be before this energy actually happens again. Enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it. Go and kiss somebody you love, hug somebody you love, call somebody and tell them you love them. Our poem last night tells us that there's nothing, that love is the most powerful force, and there is nothing that love can't conquer. So let's do our best to keep that fire burning in our hearts. Keep that love burning. And while we're doing that, if you plan to, I hope you plan to vote. I hope you're speaking to your neighbors about voting and letting them understand the importance of getting involved in local voting, local elections. I hope you're helping just put together a plan where those that may have trouble getting to the polls can get there. We can do this. We will do this, because we love this country enough with all her ails and all her bullshit and all her shit, all her ugliness. We love this country. And I understand why people come here. Even though they may romanticize it a little bit, I understand why people from other lands want to come here. So we as Americans need to also understand just what a blessing it is that we were born here. Okay? So I will see you definitely, probably Saturday afternoon or something, because I imagine the weekends are going to be tomorrow's Thursday, isn't it? Oh, it's not Friday? Oh, okay then. Then I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow night with our next superhero, our next Black superhero, as we continue this walk through Black History Month in celebration of the beauty of Blackness. See you tomorrow. And thanks again for coming on. Love you. Mwah.